Oh my fucking god. Oh my fucking god.
From all indications, there were multiple shooters who fired dozens of shots, perhaps more than 50. Remarkably, all of those bullets missed a baby who was sitting in the car that was targeted.
A Tuesday afternoon, Chicago. A mother, her baby's father, and their 13-month-old daughter sitting in a parked car. 3 men walk up. 50 rounds get fired into that vehicle. The mother didn't make it. The father survived. And that baby girl in the back seat? Not one scratch. Make it make sense. Before we get into it, make sure you hit that like button, drop something in the comments, and subscribe to Crime Scope TV because this is the kind of story that does not get told enough. Her name was Gabrielle Ayres. People called her Guy. Some called her Gabby. She was 26 years old, a hairstylist, and not just working for somebody else, either she owned her own salon right there in Chicago. The clients who walked through her doors weren't just customers. She made people feel seen. She made them feel beautiful. That was her whole thing. People who knew Gabrielle personally will tell you she was focused, kind-hearted, the type to put her head down and build, not the type to be in everybody's business. She was creating something for herself, something stable, something real. Now, back in August of 2024, Gabrielle shared something on social media that gave you a real window into how she moved. Somebody posted a question online asking what you would do if your baby's father got jumped by 6 people. Gabrielle kept it short. She said, "I ain't one to hurt people, but don't push me." That right there tells you everything. She wasn't looking for trouble. She wasn't the type to start anything. But loyalty, protection, if it came to that, she wasn't backing down. That energy was just who she was. Then December 2024 came around and everything changed in the best way. Gabrielle had a baby girl, and from that moment, being a mother became the center of her world. She wasn't just living for herself anymore. She had a daughter now, and everything she was building, the salon, the stability, the future, all of it was for that little girl. Moving on. Fast forward to December 20th, 2025. Her daughter turned 1 year old, and Gabrielle went all out for that birthday. She was on social media talking about how much she loved her baby, calling her the prettiest girl in the world. If you scrolled through her page that day, you saw a mother who was proud, who was happy, who was celebrating life out loud. Now, a few months before all of that joy, Gabrielle had run into some legal trouble. She got arrested. The charges were retail theft under $300 and theft of lost or mislaid property under $500. But by September 23rd, 2025, she was back on social media announcing that her case got dismissed. She was found not guilty, and she made sure people knew it. She even threw a little shade at the ones who had been watching her situation a little too closely. After that, things looked like they were moving in the right direction. She had her salon, she had her daughter, she had a future she was working toward. Everything pointed forward. So, let's get into February 4th, 2026. It's a Tuesday afternoon in Chicago's Auburn, Gresham neighborhood. Gabrielle is sitting in a white car parked on the 7,900 block of South Main Street. Behind the wheel is her child's father, 27-year-old Rico Suave, and strapped into her car seat in the back seat is their 13-month-old daughter. Now, where they were parked matters. They were steps away from St. Sabina Parish, a church that has been rooted in that community for years. This was not some back alley or an empty side street. This was a busy road in the middle of a Tuesday afternoon. People walking by, cars passing, businesses open. The kind of block where you feel like nothing bad could happen because everything around you is moving normally. Around 1:25 in the afternoon, at least 3 men approached the car. They were armed, and they did not hesitate. Somebody nearby saw what was about to happen. They were on their way home from work, and when they realized what was going down, they pulled out their phone and started recording. That video captured everything. The men opened fire on that white car. And we are not talking about a few shots. We are talking about over 50 rounds fired into that vehicle. They emptied into that car like they were trying to make sure nothing inside it survived. When they were done, they ran to a red Alfa Romeo that was waiting close by. But they didn't just leave. Anyways, the Alfa Romeo pulled around in front of the already destroyed white car, and they fired even more rounds into it. Only after that did they finally drive away. The white car ended up crashing into a GMC van parked nearby. The driver of that van had nothing to do with any of this.
From all indications, there were multiple shooters who fired dozens of shots, perhaps more than 50. Remarkably, all of those bullets missed a baby who was sitting in the car that was targeted.
Investigators remained at the scene well after nightfall at this corner littered with shell casings, where somehow a baby in this bullet-riddled car emerged unscathed.
What's the purpose of shooting at a car when you know there's a child in the car? That doesn't make any sense. Yeah, it could be a lot of other people who's lost their life here today.
Kirk Bell is the godfather of 26-year-old Gabrielle Ayres, who relatives identify as the woman who was shot and killed in her white Chevy sedan around 1:30 p.m. at 79th and May Street, her car then crashing into a van.
This here is unbelievable. This young lady was a beautiful young lady with a beautiful child, and life just cut short. For what?
Ayres' boyfriend in the car also shot multiple times, but her 13-month-old baby daughter, who was sitting in the back, escaped unhurt.
It's a miracle that baby was not shot. It's a miracle.
St. Sabina Church is around the block from where the gunfire erupted, and the church's food pantry is on that corner. People inside hiding in a back room, and after the gunfire, emerged to help the victims.
So they saw, the young man and the woman shot up in the car as they were trying to get the baby out. But they gave the baby immediately to the police, and the policewoman took it in her car and was holding it.
They need to clean this city up. They need to. This gangs and the shooting and the killing is just unbelievable.
Gabrielle Ayres' mother tells me her daughter worked as a hairstylist and was training to be a letter carrier. Police have not offered a motive for the shooting.
When it was finally over, South Main Street was covered in shell casings. Gabrielle had been hit multiple times throughout her body. She was in critical condition. Rico had also been shot. His injuries were serious, but not life-threatening. When first responders arrived, he was conscious and able to speak. And then there was that baby, that 13-month-old girl strapped into her car seat in the back seat of a vehicle that just took over 50 rounds, did not have a single injury. Not one scratch on her body. A witness who got to the scene shortly after said that when they looked into the back of that car, that baby was sitting there holding a lollipop, just sitting there. Like the whole world around her had not just shattered. Emergency services rushed Gabrielle to OSF Little Company of Mary Hospital. She was in critical condition. Rico was taken to Advocate Christ Medical Center in Oak Lawn and listed in good condition. A Chicago police officer safely removed the baby from the scene and took her to the hospital as a precaution, but physically, she was untouched. Father Michael Flieger from St. Sabina Parish came out to the scene. The church was right there, just steps from where it happened. Church workers from the parish's food pantry, which sat right on that corner, had been inside when the shooting started. When they heard the shots, they hid in a back room. When it was over, they came out and helped. They were part of getting that baby out of the car safely. The community was shaken. People kept asking the same thing over and over again. What could have led to this level of violence on a busy street in broad daylight? Investigators got to work immediately. Shell casings collected, surveillance footage pulled from nearby buildings, witness statements taken. That cell phone video the witness recorded, it was turned over to authorities and it became one of the most important pieces of evidence they had. The question of motive became the center of everything real fast. Investigators believed that Rico was the intended target of the attack. But here is the reality of a situation like this. When you fire over 50 rounds at a vehicle, you cannot control where those bullets go. Gabrielle, who may not have even been who they were after, took the worst of it. Despite everything the medical team at OSF Little Company of Mary Hospital did, Gabrielle did not survive. She was pronounced dead at the hospital. Rico survived and was expected to recover physically. Not long after the shooting, somebody posted online. The post read, "They just tried to end my cousin. God got him though. Rico Suave, love you still here." That post confirmed what investigators had already established, that Rico had survived a targeted attack. People in the community started speaking out. People who knew Gabrielle, people who lived in the area, people who were just exhausted by the violence that has been taking lives in Chicago for years. And that is when people started going back through social media, looking at old posts, reading old comments, connecting the dots that were already there just waiting to be found. Now this is where things get heavy. Because after Gabrielle died, people started going through old posts. And what they found was not just drama. It was a timeline that, looking back at it now, reads like a countdown nobody stopped. An old post from Gabrielle started circulating November 21st, 2025, so just a few months before she was killed. Gabrielle had posted saying she was going to put someone's deceased brother on her page, like she was going to put him on blast. The comments section on that post got heated fast. A woman jumped in, questioning whether Gabrielle would actually go through with it. Then she threw out a warning, saying that Rico and someone else were going to handle it. She also brought up whether Gabrielle's people were getting pulled out of a car and going on a mission. Gabrielle's response was direct. She said, "My brother got left on a hit." That same day, Gabrielle also posted that she did not care about anybody putting her address out there because she was moving anyway. Look, when you read those exchanges now, after everything that happened, they are not just social media beef. There are references to violence in there, references to retaliation, actual threats being thrown around in plain sight. This was real street business playing out on a public timeline. But here's the thing. While people were going through Gabrielle's posts, they were also going through Rico's. And what they found on his page raised more questions than it answered. On February 14th, 2025, almost a full year before the shooting, Rico made a post that needs to be talked about. He posted about texting Gabrielle to FaceTime him with their daughter. He said when she finally called back after 3 hours, she was, in his words, getting messed up. Then he wrote, "If anyone even played like that, he was going to put 300 rounds all across them and her." 300 rounds. Let that land for a second. The post drew responses. Gabrielle herself responded. She posted, "You take me down, you know I'm coming back." Someone in the comments told Gabrielle to come get a weapon. Then someone else tagged Rico directly and wrote, "We finna end her." Rico's reply to that? "She thinks it's a game." And in other responses, he wrote that she was counting her days and that she will not get a second chance to do this. Girl, you cannot read those words and not feel the weight of them. Because this was not some vague argument. This was specific. This was a man, in writing, publicly, saying she would not get a second chance. And here is the part that stops you cold. The shooting happened in early February 2026. He made those posts on Valentine's Day 2025, exactly 1 year before Gabrielle was killed. The same holiday, the same anniversary of those exact threats. Now, nobody is saying what happened or did not happen. The investigation is still open. But those posts are out there, and people have seen them, and the questions they raise are not going away. Oh, so now, how does a man survive 50-plus rounds if he was actually the target? That is what people in the community keep coming back to. Because think about it. Over 50 rounds fired into a car. The woman in the passenger seat is gone. And the man behind the wheel? Wounded but alive. Conscious. Talking to first responders at the scene. Was Rico caught up in something completely separate? Street conflict? Retaliation for something that had nothing to do with his relationship with Gabrielle? Or is there more to this story? Nobody has answered that question yet. The timeline gets even more tense when you look at the days right before the shooting. On December 27th, 2025, Rico posted, "Long live 3 ski. Consequences happen every time your name is mentioned." A post mourning someone, but also carrying that weight of warning in it. Then on February 3rd, 2026, the day before Gabrielle died, Rico posted, "You cowards, free Marley, free Demon." Confrontational. Like he was calling somebody out, directly. That same day, February 3rd, Gabrielle made her final post. She reposted something that read, "I stay humble 'cause I've seen people laugh at somebody, then turn around and become the same thing they joked about." That was the last thing Gabrielle ever put into the world. And then the next day, February 4th, 2026, 50 rounds on South Main Street. But here is what people could not shake. At 5:58 in the evening on February 4th, just hours after the shooting that killed Gabrielle and left him wounded, Rico posted, "Don't put me last, knowing I'd be the first one to risk it all for you." 4.5 hours after that car was destroyed, after Gabrielle was pronounced dead, he posted that. Was it a message to the people who shot him? A signal that he was still standing? Was it grief? Was it directed at Gabrielle? Was it something else entirely? Nobody knows, but everybody saw it. The investigation into Gabrielle's death is still ongoing. As of now, no arrests have been made. Investigators are still working to identify the shooters and pin down the actual motive behind the attack. The video evidence is clear. The surveillance footage from nearby buildings, the witness who recorded everything on their phone, the shell casings covering South Main Street, the physical picture of what happened that afternoon is not in question. It is all there. But the why? That is still where everything gets murky. You have 3 men walking up to a parked car in broad daylight and unloading over 50 rounds into it. You have a baby who walked away without a scratch. You have a father who survived with injuries. And you have a mother who did not make it home. Investigators believed Rico was the intended target, that this was tied to street conflict. But the social media trail paints a complicated picture of a relationship that had already been filled with threats and tension long before February 4th. And that picture is not something people are just going to look away from. Was this street retaliation that Gabrielle got caught in the middle of? Was she the actual target and everything else is a cover story? Or is the truth somewhere in the middle of all of it? The streets have one version, the posts have another, and the investigation is still trying to find where the truth actually lives. Let me tell you something. When a story like this reaches you through a screen, it is easy to process it as just another headline. Another name, another Chicago shooting, another number added to a statistic that people shake their heads at and then scroll past. But Gabrielle Ayres was not a statistic. She was 26 years old. She owned her own business. She built something with her hands and her talent in a city where that is not easy to do. She had clients who sat in her chair, not just to get their hair done, but because being around her made them feel good about themselves. That kind of energy is rare, and it is gone now. She had a daughter she called the prettiest girl in the world. A daughter she celebrated turning 1 just 6 weeks before she died. A daughter who was sitting in that back seat on February 4th and somehow came out of it without a scratch on her. That baby is going to grow up. She is going to get old enough to ask questions. And somebody is going to have to sit across from her and explain what happened on South Main Street that afternoon. They are going to have to tell her that her mother was 26 years old, that she was building a life, that she loved her more than anything, and that she was taken in broad daylight on a busy street while that baby sat right there in the back seat. There is a video out there of the moment it happened. It exists, it is circulating, and that little girl is going to be old enough to find it one day. That right there is the part of this story that does not get talked about enough. Because we focus on the crime, on the investigation, on the questions, and rightfully so, but that child is going to carry this for the rest of her life. And she had no say in any of it. Now, the people in the Auburn Gresham community said what people always say after something like this, that it has to stop, that the violence has to stop, that the cycles of retaliation, the street conflicts, the back and forth that keeps pulling young people into situations they sometimes cannot get out of all of it, has to stop. And look, those words are true. Nobody is arguing against them. But saying it and actually doing something about it are two very different things. And the communities that keep absorbing this kind of loss know that better than anyone. Father Fligger and the people at St. Sabina Parish were steps away when this happened. Their food pantry workers hid in a back room while 50 rounds were being fired outside their door. These are people who have dedicated their lives to that community, and even they could not stop what happened that afternoon. Moving on, because the hard truth of a story like this is that there is no clean resolution to give you. There is no arrest to close it out with. No courtroom moment, no sentence handed down. Just an open investigation, a community still grieving, and a family that has to figure out how to move forward without Gabrielle in it. The social media posts are still out there. The threats that were made publicly, the back and forth, the warnings that in hindsight read like a roadmap to what was coming, none of that has been officially connected to anything by investigators. At least not publicly. The case is still open. The shooters have not been identified. The motive has not been confirmed. And Rico? He survived. He is out here. Whatever he knows about why that car was targeted that afternoon, whatever his role is in the bigger picture of this story, that is something only the investigation can answer. And until it does, the questions are going to keep living on social media, in comment sections, in conversations on the block. But hey, that is the reality of a case like this. The truth does not always come out fast. Sometimes it takes years. Sometimes it never comes out at all. And the family of the person who was lost has to live in that uncertainty every single day. Gabrielle's last post to the world was a repost. Something that said, I stay humble because I've seen people laugh at somebody, then turn around and become the same thing they joked about. She posted that on February 3rd, 2026, the day before she died. She had no idea those would be her last words to the world. She was not writing a goodbye. She was just living, just moving, just being herself on a regular Monday, the day before everything ended. That is the thing about moments like this. Nobody sees them coming. Not Gabrielle. Not her daughter sitting in that back seat. Not the church workers hiding in that back room. Not the witness who pulled out their phone because they did not know what else to do. Life was just moving, and then it stopped. For the people who loved Gabrielle, her family, her friends, the clients who sat in her chair, the people who scrolled past her posts and watched her celebrate her daughter's first birthday just 6 weeks before. All of this no investigation brings her back. No answers bring her back. No conviction brings her back. She is gone. And a little girl is going to grow up knowing her mother was taken from her before she was even old enough to remember her face. That is the real weight of this story. Not just the 50 rounds, not just the red Alfa Romeo, not just the social media posts and the questions about motive. The real weight is that a child lost her mother, and a community lost someone who was quietly, consistently building something good. Gabrielle Ayres deserved to see her daughter grow up. I said what I said. If this story moved you, share it. Not for the views, but because Gabrielle's name deserves to be remembered. Because stories like hers get buried under the next headline too fast, and because somewhere out there, somebody knows something about what happened on South Main Street that afternoon. If you know anything about this case, contact the Chicago Police Department. We will see you on the next case right here on CrimeScope TV.